Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Aligned to Your Design podcast, where you meet people that I have deemed living on purpose. You can be the judge of that. And we hear their story and what they're working on, and we experience their amazing thought leading innovation. And then we have a look at their human design chart because it's very interesting to look at people's designs and see how you're alike and different from others and what you can draw as inspiration. Today, we're going to talk about the need for resources to run your business and run your life. And this conversation has come up a lot, I'd say, in the past 3 weeks or so, about the difference between capitalism, which I consider rot, ROT, rotten, and commerce. And commerce is based on the tribal bargain, tit for tat. The price is this for the item, you pay me that amount. Hopefully, you're happy with the item. Onward we go. But we're currently living in a time of oligarchy where individuals are rearranging the legal system to allow them to be criminals. And it's not like this is new, but now they're not even trying to hide it. And this is in the United States, but this is happening all over the world. And it's going to impact particularly the small business owner like it did during the pandemic. So we have a lot to talk about today and how you can set yourself right to be an attractive and receptive being to the resources you require to live your purpose. With that, let me share about our guest and have a look at her bio and share it with you. All right, our guest today, who we're going to talk about money and resources and commerce with, is Anjel B. Hartwell. She is an internationally known author, artist, and evolutionary alchemist. Anjel won a Movement to Watch award from Be the Change, and she is one of America's premier experts, having appeared multiple times in major media. She is the creator, executive producer, and host of the 14-time award-winning and Apple #1 internationally ranked Wickedly Smart Women podcast. So if you don't listen to the Wickedly Smart Women podcast, go subscribe. And if you do listen, kudos to you. She is also the 3-time award-winning top 50 internationally ranked in the Leading Visionaries podcast. And she also is the International Impact and Bookfest award-winning author of Be Heard by Millions and Live Your Destiny, which you might want to pick up a copy of if you want to have a more successful broadcast or media or podcast career. They're all related under a similar banner. Be Heard by Millions and Live Your Destiny by Anjel B. Hartwell. Anjel is hired to consult with high achieving visionary leaders who are called to be the vanguard of the creative age. And with that, I'm going to bring on our show the amazing, the inimitable Anjel B. Hartwell. Here she comes.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me, Beth. Excited to be here.
It's so good to have you. It's so good to have you. How did you start the Wickedly Woman podcast?
So Wickedly Smart
Oh, Wickedly
Women.
Smart, excuse me.
Yeah. So let me just give you a little background on the podcast story. I actually started my first podcast was called Men on Purpose. And I started that at the beginning of 2018. And I ran that for into 2019. And in the spring of 2019, it became clear I needed to add Wickedly Smart Women to the mix. And then I launched Wickedly Smart Women in September of 2019. Within 3 months, I realized that I had put too much on my plate. And I decided that I was going to put Men on Purpose on hiatus. And had a bank. I always have a bank. It's always good to have a bank of episodes. Since we're talking about resources today, it's good to have banks. And I went to this event called the New Media Summit. And at that event, there was somebody there who started talking about wanting to start his own show. he was a host for somebody else, and his desire was to help men and help them be on purpose. So I had this idea pop in that maybe he'd like to buy the show. So I was actually the first independent podcaster to sell a podcast to somebody as well.
Wow.
So Wickedly Smart Women kind of came out of a 12-year journey of actually helping women to feel great speaking and powerful asking for money. And then, I went through this little sidetrack with the Men on Purpose, which ultimately was a healing journey for me. I realized after I sold it that the 163 episodes were an opportunity for me to be in the presence of men on purpose and to break a pattern of spending my entire life being in relationships with men who were either abusive, addicted, or I felt alienated from. So that's a little bit about how Wickedly Smart Women got started. She just kind of came in the middle of all of
Did
that.
it help? Do you feel like your relationship to the masculine is healthier now from having done that?
Oh, exponentially so. What ended up happening was, because I had spent my entire life being in these relationships with men who were either addicted or, abusive, or I felt alienated from, by literally shifting my focus and making the decision that I was going to be interviewing and speaking with men on purpose, like it literally gave me that shift out of constantly just keeping attracting the ones that were no longer a fit for me. Yeah. And so, yes, it was a huge healing for me to go through that process, including the sale. The whole sale of the show was a healing as well around my own discernment. Really, it was about my own discernment. And, the topic of money, there's a huge interconnection with the masculine frequency, in my view. And most of the money is still coagulated in the hands of now a very few men. So it's an important thing for us to do our own healing work internally, I think, around the masculine and that interconnection with money as well.
Mm. Well, since women are wickedly smart and can be, maybe not always, but we can be. What are some of the biggest issues you've seen around women and money, and why? Do you
Well,
think, based on what you've seen and heard and
yes.
lived?
So, as you and anybody who's listening to this podcast knows, conditioning is obviously the main challenge. The conditioning of, 5,000 years of patriarchy is a huge challenge. And let me actually take a step back and just define my view of what wealth is for everyone so that they have a framework for that. I use the mnemonic device thief, THIEF, because we are often stealing from one or more of these areas in our life. And this is the sum total of all of the resources that we do have available to us. So time, our health, our imagination, which is the marriage of the intellect and the intuition, the ecosystem of exchange, which is where we have relationships with people, and this is the section where the money actually happens, the money exchanges happen, and then fun with our family, friends, and fellows on the path. So we are often stealing from one or more of those areas, and when we're stealing, we are engaging in activities and behaviors and thought forms and beliefs and conditioning that's literally designed to ward off wealth, to push away our resources rather than allowing these resources to be abundantly present for us.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've discovered 5 ways that we ward off wealth, and we can talk about those if you'd like.
Yeah. Lay it on us. What are
Great.
5 ways we ward off wealth? I want to know.
So, one is worry. And I'm psychic. And so when I work with my clients, I see worry as this dark gray, dusty, musty, nasty, moist smelling old army blanket that's wrapped around anything that you're worried about. So if you're worried about your health, if you're worried about your child, if you're worried about your marriage, if you're worried about money, that's what you're energetically wrapping the object of your worry in.
Right, right.
So worry is number one. Withdrawing is the second one. So I use the example of people might be listening to this podcast and they suddenly, have a revelation or an insight, and they suddenly get this idea that they want to move forward in a certain area, and then they just pull themselves back. And when you pull yourself back from engaging with life and you withdraw, that is going to also send the signal universally that you're not interested in whatever that
Mm-hmm.
opportunity might be for you. The third thing is we waffle. And waffling looks like, we'll use an event example. You've hosted events in the past, Beth. So imagine that you're in an event and Beth is on stage and she makes a $10,000 offer, and you think to yourself, oh my God, this is exactly what I need to move my entrepreneurship forward. And it's a bathroom break. So you go to the bathroom and your best friend texts you and says, oh my God, you know that cruise to the Mediterranean that we've been looking at for years? It's finally on sale for $10,000. And now you have the entrepreneurship or the cruise ship, the entrepreneurship or the cruise ship, and both ships sail because you can't make a decision. So
Right.
waffling will ward off wealth.
Why can't you do both?
Well, a lot of times you can do both, but you psychologically you think you have to choose one over the other
Right, right.
because you're worried about the money, because these are all interconnected as well, right?
Yep.
The fourth one is whining. And often whining happens over wine. And this we see, or
What a waste of wine.
if it's boys, they're belly aching over beer, right?
Right.
And
Belly aching over beer, whining
or
over
whining
wine.
over wine. And so when you're whining over wine, alcohol is going to lower your consciousness level. Let's face it, that's the case. And when you're whining over wine, you're generally with other people who are now colluding with your sob story. They're colluding. And so there is a place for people. If you're having a challenge, if you're having a problem, if you're trying to make something happen and it's not working, that's when you want to hire somebody. You want to hire a consultant. You want to hire a coach. You want to hire somebody where you can go and present what's going on so that you can correct it,
Mm-hmm.
rather than so
Yeah.
you can just, play your tiny violin
Right,
and be
right, right.
whining.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. And then the last one is waiting on. And I was guilty of all of these things. So that's how I know all of them. Waiting on looks like one of two things. You're either waiting on the handsome prince, right? Because we've been conditioned to believe, especially as women, that the handsome prince is someday going to show up on his horse and carry us away to our castle, right? So you're waiting on something to happen, and you're just sitting there waiting on that. Or you're running around like Cinderella, waiting on all the ugly stepsisters. And this often happens in mastermind groups. I will out myself. I spent years caretaking everyone else at the expense of my own business, waiting on
Mm.
everyone else at the expense of my own business. So those are the 5 ways that we ward off wealth.
So they are, to recap, worry,
Withdraw.
waffling,
Yep. Waffling.
right? Worry, waffling. Um,
Withdrawing.
don't tell me. Wait, worrying, waffling, waiting was the last one, and there's two in there. What were they? What were the other two?
Withdrawing.
Withdrawing, right? Pulling away, and the other?
Whining over wine.
Whining. Beautiful. That's really good. The five W's.
Yeah. Keeps it easy.
Right. So you've noticed this, right? Over all these
Mhm.
years, these five signs. And as you were saying it, I could think of examples for myself and clients of every single one.
Mhm.
All right. So let's break it down. Let's start with worry. What do you do? What about it?
Well, there's an antidote to all of these, right? And so with worry, we have to actually get back to our childlike sense of wonder and let go because when we're worrying, we're focusing our energy, our creative power and our energy on this, whatever this object is of our worry, whether it's I have too much debt, or I'm not making, I don't have any good clients, or I'm worried I'm going to not make it the mortgage payment this month, or I'm worried that if I put myself out there in front of high ticket people, I'm going to get rejected, or any of those. Like, I mean, there's a million, zillion, gazillion things, infinite number of things that we can worry about. And we're using our creative energy and power to actualize the result that we've been worried about. Right. And what
Mm-hmm.
happened for me, I remember when I first got into this business, I spent 20 years in the real estate business, and then I had a spiritual awakening. And as a result of that spiritual awakening, discovered my healer, and I discovered my hands could heal, and I discovered my artist, and I discovered my performer and presenter, and all those things, these latent parts of myself that had been dormant in my left brain, career from the first 20 years of my career life. And so when I first got into the space, I just was like, oh my God, it was like Wonderland, right? And I allowed myself that wonder. And then I started to worry. And at one point, I was about 2 years out of real estate and into working with crystals and magic and energy and all of those things. And I had hired a babysitter to go do my first presentation on crystal healing. This is back in 2004 or five, something like that. And I come home and she had put, I was starting to worry because it had been 2 years since I had had any income, and I was living on my savings and all the other things that we do. And she had put the popcorn in the microwave upside down, burned a hole right through the microwave. I had a call on my voicemail that I needed four new tires for my car. And then I went out to mow the lawn and I ran over a bull with the lawnmower. So, like, instantly, I had this instant knowing, like, I am creating from my worry. I'm creating. So, what we want to do when we start worrying is the antidote is wonder. Like, I wonder what would happen if I invested 10,000 to work with Beth and did that cruise, right? I
Right.
wonder what would happen if I um, posted that I'm open now for a $150,000 client. I wonder what would happen if I decided to sell a podcast, right? I wonder what would happen. So, wonder is the antidote for worry.
Nice. Okay. So next step, we withdraw,
Right.
right? Very
So,
familiar one. So
right.
why? But why do we withdraw? I get why we worry because we're conditioned to worry and think it's like, oh my God, we're going to die. But why withdraw?
I think women, especially, but also those of us who are heart centered, innovative, spiritually oriented, awakened, conscious, we withdraw because we're afraid of being persecuted, prosecuted, or executed. You know, if you're here with a new idea or some kind of change initiative, especially as we are going through the great change that we're in right now, there's a huge amount of force that wants to quash that. And so we withdraw. Sometimes it's actually self-preservation. Sometimes withdrawal is self-preservation.
Mhm.
You need to withdraw because your health needs to be attended to. One of the resources needs to be attended to. Your health needs to be attended to. But a lot of times I think it's because of the martyrdom wound, the Christ wound. We've been the people who come to bring change have historically been persecuted, prosecuted, or executed. And so all of a sudden you're activated to, do something with this kernel of change that you came as a seed to plant into this world. You get activated by listening to you and I, maybe, or going to an event or whatever. And that activation is doing two things. Number one, it's letting you know that you're actually called, that you
Mhm.
actually do have something here to offer, that you did come to the planet for a purpose, and it's also activating this wound of being persecuted, prosecuted, and executed, possibly in multiple lifetimes. Let's raise our hand on
Yes.
that, Beth.
Yes, I relate to that one especially. Okay, number 3, waffling. Why do we waffle and what do we do about it?
Well, let me tell you what we do about withdrawing.
Oh,
Withdrawing,
sorry, I thought you already did.
no,
No, you
no
didn't.
worries. With withdrawing, what we actually want to do is we want to see where we can weave our thread in. We want to utilize spider medicine and weave our thread in. And sometimes what what we want to do in weaving is building this community that allows us, like you've done so beautifully with the Align to Your Design community, it allows us the place to feel safe
Uh-huh.
and strong, right? So
Yes.
when you have that community, like I watched you go through cancer, you were safe and strong in that journey through cancer because you had woven your magical thread in a leadership way into this community that um, was mutually aligned with the vision. Does that make sense?
It does, but it's not anything I did with any kind of effort.
Well, of course not, because, you were aligning to your own design.
Right, right.
You're a general, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Right? So you need your troops, right?
I
That's
do. Yes,
you have to have your troops. You
yeah,
can't stand in your leadership position without your
right,
troops.
right.
So waffling, why do we waffle? Why do we waffle? Hmm, that's a really good question. I think the reason why we waffle is because we are conditioned to believe that if we make a decision, we might miss out, right?
Yeah,
There might be something better that comes along, so the fear of missing out keeps us paralyzed and indecisive,
right.
right? So, oh, if I take this offer from Beth to work with her for $10,000, well, what if somebody else comes along with a better offer and to do the same thing for either less money or I'm getting
Hmm.
more stuff? Like it's that whole like hoardy, greedy, I want more stuff for less kind of thing. And I think it's really fear of missing out with the waffling. And
Yeah.
the antidote to waffling is really to deepen your own connection with your wisdom. Like your
Yes,
wisdom will tell you the truth. Your wisdom,
yes.
the body graph and human design, and we know how to make our decisions, and we're either a sacral or emotional or whatever. We know at the core level, our wisdom knows what is correct for us.
Can I give you an example from my own
Yeah,
life? So when
please.
I lived in LA, I remember in my 20s thinking I should buy 3 or 4 houses in Venice, California, because they're dirt cheap in that area. I don't know why it's not up and coming, but it will be. And did I act on that? No, I was afraid. Now, had I bought those 3 houses, I would have made about $14 million.
Mm.
And yeah, easily. And maybe not 14 million, like 10 million, a lot. Like a retirement plan, those 3 or 4 houses. And I didn't do it. And I've had other instances of that where I knew what stock to buy. I mean, even with the Bitcoin, I saw when it was down, I was like, oh, I should just throw 10 grand at that. And I got distracted and forgot, and it went up. It doubled, right? I mean,
Mm.
it halved 50%. It grew in a day. And I thought, man, why do I waffle on my financial insights when I know they're correct? You know what I mean?
Good
And I get
question.
those hits like every 5 years. I'll get one of those, like about, and every now and then I do it. And yes, absolutely. Decades later, I was so glad I took action. But I thought, what if I took action on all of my financial insights instead of waffling?
I vote yes for that. I'm going to ring my
Yeah.
bell. I'm going to ring my bell. Yes, take action on your financial insights
So
because
I have to keep reminding myself of that, but at least I'm
yeah,
aware
well
of it now. I'm
because
aware of it.
you're plugged into the divine, honey.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got a direct connect to the divine. So when the divine is telling you go buy the
That
Bitcoin, go buy
I
the
yeah, do it.
freaking
I mean, because
Bitcoin.
the Bitcoin I did buy, I like went and looked at it. I went, oh my God, I just should have bought more. You know, so anyway, that's the thing. It's like trusting the insights for building wealth because it's not just for me, it's for the community, it's for my family, my progeny, right? The
You're a
legacy, if
leader,
you
and
will.
when a leader takes a bold move, you're leading others to take bold moves
Right,
as well.
right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Okay. Anything else about waffling you want to share
No,
before
that's
we?
it.
Okay. Number 4, whining.
Mm. This one's easy. We whine for attention. My brother was a whiner when he was a kid, and my mother used to yell at him all, "Stop whining, stop whining!" Right? My little brother, he was the last child, and we whine for attention. It's really our inner little that's like, please pay attention to me. I just need somebody to give me some energy, any kind of energy. I don't care what kind of energy it is, as long as it's energy. So I'm just going to go over here and whine. And people love to collude with whining.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
everybody wants to have their sob stories out there,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah. And it's just such a Oh, it's really wasteful of your energy and your life force. And how do we stop whining? Well, we weed out the thought forms, weed out the people who are colluding with you.
Right.
weed out the experiences and environments where there is a propensity for lowering your consciousness. Just get it out.
Right. Right.
Weed that
Right.
shit right out.
Yeah.
You're the gardener of your life.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
One would hope.
one would hope.
All right. And then number 5, waiting. Unless there's more you want to say about whining.
No, that's it. And
Waiting.
it's not waiting, it's waiting on.
Waiting on.
Because
Waiting on what?
waiting is different. Waiting is being patient. You put the
Right.
cookies in the oven, you got to wait 27 minutes until the
Right.
cookies are done. That's just being patient. Waiting on has the element of expecting to be rescued
Uh-huh.
or being the rescuer.
Uh,
One of the two, right? So you're either acting like you're the savior or you're waiting for the savior. And what you're doing instead is you're wasting the time, energy, attention, and often money that you could be using in service to serving your purpose rather than serving somebody who is, needing rescuing or waiting for somebody to come and rescue you. And so what's the antidote to that? Walking in partnership. And this really requires you to get clear about how can you show up to be a great partner for somebody else. And
right.
what often happens with our heart-centered people is that we undercharge and overgive and exhaust ourselves. And then what kind of a partner are you if you have exhausted yourself, if you've drained yourself of all of your energy because you're undercharging and overgiving? There's this whole philosophy of, you know, make a promise and then over deliver on the promise. No, just give them enough. Sometimes this over delivery on the promise is so ridiculous that it bogs people down and they can't move forward.
Yeah, well, it breaks the agreement in another way. And then people don't appreciate what you are giving them because they go into overwhelm.
That's right. And they don't understand the value of it anyway.
No,
They don't understand the value of it anyway. So walking in
no.
partnership is about having it be a win-win-win for everyone. I am coming to the table with 45 plus years of multi-award winning entrepreneurial experience. Well, yes, it's expensive to work with me. Yes, it's expensive to work with you, Beth. Yes, we do make offers for people to come and join us in our work. And when I make an offer to somebody, I know that the offer is not only honoring what I'm bringing to the table, but it's also providing for whoever I'm offering it to
Hmm.
the opportunity to take a rite of passage. When they say yes to that investment level to work with me, and it's at minimum 5 figures to work with me, when
Right,
they
right,
say
right.
yes to that, what they're actually doing is they're actually sending the signal when they're investing in themselves at that level to the universe that they're ready for the rite of passage. And they're making that rite of passage. And I feel that for most heart-centered people who are here with a big vision, with a big mission, it's incumbent upon you to get your resources straight and to understand exactly, specifically, and precisely what you require in order to thrive, not just survive, not to be overgiving and drained. We need to be thriving in order for these seeds that we're here to plant to take root and blossom and create a consciousness shift, planetarily, which is what we came for. Hello, that's what we came for.
Yes. Oh, I want to come back to this
Mhm.
conversation around thriving, but I want to get your input or opinion on what's happening politically right now. We both live in the United States with this. I don't know if it's a celebration, but a sort of an uplifting of a lot of billionaires. And best I can tell, the majority of these individuals, I don't get any sense that they really care at all about children.
Well, they don't care about anything other than themselves and, putting extra zeros and ones on their computers, right? So my perspective is, and it's not just here in the US. I think it's
No, it
global.
isn't. It's in other places, but
It's
this is where
global.
we live. So
Yeah,
I just
where
wanted to
we
say it
live.
for the listeners if they're in France listening,
Yeah. Yeah.
that we're in the
I
US
I
perspective.
feel this comes back to us. It's our job to stop warding off wealth and to actually open up the container and the vacuum to allow resources to come in to resource our initiatives, our vision, our innovations. Because right now, what I see in the global monetary system, and certainly in here in the US, is a giant clot. It's like a giant clot, and money is meant to circulate. But that clot is going to stay there as long as those of us who are here with the mission and the purpose to bring about conscious change are unwilling to break down our walls against the money and against the stewardship of these resources. And as long as we're walling that off, then the clot can't move. It's going to stay stuck. And our work is really to open up the space for that to start to flow and be redistributed.
All right, so back to the idea of thriving.
Mm.
So we've got these 5 ways that people can wall off the wealth. What do we actually do, or how do we actually align our energy to dissolving the clot?
Yeah. Well, I wonder how we do that, Beth. And part of what I think that we want to do is put our focus beyond the clot. Just like when you go into one of these events where they have you like put your hands through a brick or
Hmm.
your hands through, we have to focus beyond the clot. There's so much
Right.
focus on the clot right now, right? We need to focus beyond the clot. We need to be continually reinforcing our weaving with the community of people that are in same mindset. We need to draw on our wisdom. We need to be weeding out the bullshit. We need to be walking in partnership, and we need to be wondering what is beyond the clot. Because when we put our energy on the clot, all we're focused on is the clot. But when we put our energy on what are we here to create? We're at the dawn of the creative age. That's what we're here to do, is to create an entirely new paradigm.
Hmm.
So stand in your creator and wonder what is yours to do, and then do it. Do what is yours to do. That's how we break down the wall, by just moving our energy in the direction of our destiny.
Yeah. Yeah, and here's the thing. What does someone do though? This is a situation I see. So many people are working 2 and 3 jobs, right? So they can't even really pay their bills. So never mind saving up money. And when I look at that, I think to myself, like, yes, practically these people are in a pickle. However, I also know that each person who goes a bit beyond that dysfunctional comfort level, even though it's not comforting, it's familiar. There's the majority of people are in the same boat kind of thing. So if you had someone come to you and they were really struggling financially, and maybe they'd done well financially, so this is a new experience for them that they're struggling to simply pay the bills, never mind have their former lifestyle that maybe was very abundant. Uh, where would you guide someone first?
I think the first thing that you have to do is look at the resources, right? What we have for resources: time, health, our imagination, our ecosystem of exchange, and fun with our friends, family, and fellows on the path, and discover where you're stealing.
Right.
Like, y- you may be stealing from your health, okay? You may be stealing from your relationships. You may be stealing from your time. There are so many ways that we get distracted, and our time is precious. Every one of these resources is precious. So I think it requires a fierce moral inventory, a fierce moral inventory, because, and this is not to say that you and I are not incredibly privileged. Both of us, we're
Right, right, of
privileged,
course.
right? We
Yeah.
are very privileged. But I had this conversation with somebody yesterday or a few days ago and I said, just do one small thing. One small thing. Drops of water will create the Grand Canyon, one
Right.
drop at a time. Find one small thing. Carve out 5 minutes in your day to connect with your source and to listen to what your imagination has to tell you. Find 5 minutes in the day to weed out the shit that is not serving you.
Right.
Find
Right.
five
Right.
minutes to look at your health and say, you know, do I need the big car and the four-wheeler and the boat and the house with the picket fence, or was that all sold to me to perpetuate a system that's in collapse, right? And let's all be real, the system and the entire structure is in collapse in every industry.
Yeah.
So don't be clinging on to what was. Start wondering about what can be. Start wondering about what can be. And
Yeah.
what can your role be in that? What can your role be
That's,
in that?
I love that. And what do you see have been some of the mistakes of the self-help industry? Because it's probably been really roaring since the 60s, right? And it's really been this window of self-awareness. And of course, it's always going to have a shadow. So I think most listeners can see the benefit of self-awareness, making better decisions, having better relationships as a result, feeling better about yourself. All those things are good. But there's also a dark side. And so my first question is, what have you observed in these many decades we've both shared in the self-help industry, some aspects of the dark side, and how that the second part of that question or inquiry is, how is that impacting commerce for coaches?
Yeah, okay. I think I'm just going to talk about the law of attraction
Yeah.
being a problem, like there was this big fairy tale of like, oh, just use the law of attraction and you're going to attract anything you want. But they did not really speak about the subconscious. They did not really speak about what's
Right.
going on in the unconscious. They did not speak about somatics and trap trauma and past life wounds and all of those things. So here you are busily working your law of attraction and you're not getting the shit that you want to be attracting. I think there's this overlay of I can mentally make shit happen rather than using the law of attraction and saying, oh, what is being attracted into my life that is here to show me something I haven't seen yet so that I can make progress with myself. Right. So I'm going to use that as the example because
Yeah,
for
and the other
time
inherent,
purposes.
yeah, I like that because one of the inherent problems I always felt with the law of attraction is like, well, I can mentally picture something and manifest that. I was
Mhm.
I'm like, what, you want to manifest a house or a boat? Okay, we can do that. But you may not need a house or a boat right now.
Correct.
To me, attraction, real attraction is energetic,
Exactly.
right? So I want to
Exactly.
be what I am so I can attract what is going to exalt what I am rather than putting all this energy into manifesting something that I may or may not be able to manifest, but isn't actually in service to why I'm here. Is that another way of saying it?
Totally. Totally.
Yeah.
I think it's a law. We're not going to deny that it's a law, but I think how it was wielded in the self-help industry has been detrimental.
I saw an instance of this when I was dating someone, and our dysfunction matched perfectly.
Thank
And
you.
our
Thank you,
and a lot of
universe.
people, what's that?
Thank you, universe, for
Right.
showing
And a
me
lot of people
showing
will
me the
say, like, oh, well,
dysfunction.
you attract what you are. And I'm like, not necessarily. You attract, especially romantically, if there's a wound there that is unacknowledged, you'll usually attract someone who's got the same kind of wound. And there'll be a polarity. That's what creates the attraction. So one person has dealt with the same wound by being avoidant or aggressive or addictive. And someone else has dealt with that wound by being fawning and people pleasing and people like, oh, they're so sweet. And a lot of those people that are so sweet, I'm like, Well, except for the rage that's just bubbling under the surface. Yeah, they're really sweet. Just don't cross them, right? Um,
Right.
so that's kind of what I observed for myself. And then once I was able to realize, like, oh, that gentleman that I dated had a same kind of rejection wound that I had. And he dealt with it in a very, because he's very masculine. He dealt with it in a very masculine way. And I dealt with my wound in a very feminine way. So we were very attracted and we were actually genuinely attracted. And yet we had attracted each other in our shadow.
Trauma bonded. You trauma
And yeah,
bonded.
and I could see that he was
Mm.
playing out the part of me, the masculine part of me that I had disowned and was
That's right.
judging. And
That's
he had
right.
done the same. And it really came
That's
down
right.
to me and my dad and him and his mom.
Of course. Always, always. And in shamanic terms, we call it an affinity. So it's kind of like, like it's like the plug hole and the plug, right? The
Yeah.
plug you,
Yeah.
you have an
Yeah.
affinity. And so I had an affinity for abuse and abusive
Right.
relationships until I did the work and, shifted my perception and did my healing work. I had an affinity for abuse and being abused.
And I
So,
also think, to everyone's credit in these dynamics, even the abuser. Now, hitting people, cursing people, abusing people isn't okay. And I do believe there should be laws to stop it. Yes. And prison time if needed. That being said, my experience of abusive people is they are as wounded and clueless as the codependent fawner, and
totally.
that both people are suffering under hideous pain. And I think if we were actually able to address abuse sooner, we'd make more progress. We have to start when the kids are young and being abusive, right? Like
Totally.
help them, like, wow, you're really angry and destructive. Like, what's going on? Um, but where was I going with that? Just
Well,
just
I want to
suffice.
agree. I
Yeah,
want
yeah,
to
yeah. Go
agree with
ahead.
that. And I want to say,
Yeah.
let's use this as an opportunity to call out the people who are listening to this, for whom that is their calling. Their calling is to help children from abusive situations
Yes.
to heal so that they become healed adults. And
Right.
there's somebody listening right now for whom that is their calling. And so I'm here to tell you, don't worry, don't withdraw, don't waffle on this, don't whine about it, don't be waiting on it. Start using your wonder, start weaving together community that's going to help you, start tapping into the wisdom that you came to bring to the planet that's going to create a generation of healed adults. Start weeding out whatever you need to weed out to that's preventing you from doing this, and start finding the people that you can walk in partnership with. I want to now let's just do a little talk about my chart if you'd like, Beth, because I
Yeah.
actually
You gotta go?
thought, yeah, we need to
Yeah,
we need to
sure.
go soon. So
Yeah,
I
I
have
got you.
a
I like
six,
that. See,
six
you're like
minutes left.
you're on time. Like I
Yeah,
don't I don't set time on these, so hang on. I mean, I
no
sort of do,
worries.
but if you have something else coming up, all
I
right, hang
do
on.
actually.
All right, cool. I didn't realize, so it's fine.
I'm grateful for the time. I'm
I've got your
delighted, and I
chart.
I would spend hours with you.
I
I
always tell
could,
people, like, just direct me if I don't
yeah, we
seem to
could
be going in that direction.
we could spend hours here. Let me
Yeah,
also
okay.
say, for anybody, before we get to the chart, for anybody
Yeah.
who's interested, you can get my quiz, the Wealthy Life Readiness Quiz, at
Oh yeah, yeah. We'll
quiz.wealthylifementor.com.
put the
So
link below.
yeah,
What say the link again? What is it?
so it's the Wealthy Life Readiness Quiz, because you can create a life that's a work of art. You can do that. Anybody can do it. It might be only 5 minutes a day, but it's better than
All right.
nothing, right?
Great.
And it's quiz.wealthylifementor.com.
Okay, and that'll be down below in all the notes from our show. So if you're listening, the link is in the description. All right, let's bring up the chart. Here we go. I was enjoying looking at your chart before. All right, do you see it on the screen?
I do.
Okay, make sure the screen's showing it too. All right, where's my mouse? Come here, mouse. I got a new computer, this mouse. I'm like, how do people not get carpal tunnel? Okay, gotta fix it. All righty. Um, you are a manifesting generator 6-2 in the left angle cross of industry. So I guess my question to you would be, Angel, what is something that's been on your mind or in your heart, or something that you've been feeling into, because you've got this defined solar plexus, which 50 between 51, 53% of humanity have a solar plexus that's colored in. So we call it defined. So you are here to make decisions through emotion. Um, so what have you been feeling lately?
Interestingly enough, Beth, because you mentioned the U.S. political situation right now,
Yeah,
I've been feeling calm as a cucumber. And when the election happened in 2016, I was
really?
massively triggered with, trauma from having grown up with an abusive authority figure.
Right, right.
And so this time I feel very calm. And I feel like I am already on the other side of the clot,
Mm,
energetically and philosophically and spiritually. Like I'm on the other side of the clot. I told a friend that when I went into vote, that I would be listening, and I would be listening for the vote that would make the difference 10,000 years from now. And I voted blue, and that was my vote, and that was how I went into it. And I'm feeling calm. I'm
hmm.
just feeling really calm and curious. I'm feeling
Yeah.
curious.
So how about with regards to yourself and your own life? Is there anything you're feeling that you
Um,
want me to look at in your chart?
Yeah, I think I have been feeling that there may be a relationship coming soon. I think
Okay.
there's, that I've been feeling that. But
Yeah.
I question that sometimes, and so I have to do my own work to make that questioning go away. Yeah.
Well, why would you question it when you have gate 59 in Uranus hanging out here in Uranus? I mean, we're Uranian beings. We're meant to have at least 84 years, 84-year
I have
lifespan.
plenty of time. I have plenty of time. I am
Oh my,
not
well, the
concerned
point I'm
about the time.
making is that you're a Uranian being with gate 59, which is intimacy, and it's a hanging gate waiting for gate 6. So it's your destiny.
Yes, it is.
Like it's a completion for you to bring in someone
Yeah,
who you can have a relationship with, because otherwise that intimacy just hangs out there.
that's
And what's
right.
interesting is 59-6 is called the one night stand, which is life for a moment, or excuse me, love for a moment or love for a lifetime. And 59-4 is the friend. Let me be more specific: sisterhood, brotherhood. So what you show, right? Wickedly Smart Women podcast is the sisterhood. But what you
And
really want,
leading visionaries is more men show up for that. So that's probably the
right? This
brotherhood.
is
Yeah,
philanthropy.
right.
And it's also cosmic love,
Yes, that's been on
right?
the radar, Beth. It's been on
Right?
the radar.
Yeah,
And
I know it's
I know
wild.
my
Well, I'm
body.
noticing there are men going, wait a minute. I can't ascend if I need to keep dating people I perceive as beneath me and as bimbos. Not that those women are. I don't want to, I mean, yes, there are people that actually act like bimbos, but most people aren't bimbos. You get what I'm saying? And that it's the judgment, and women do this too, right? Like the judgment of the being as less than versus worthy of equal rights. And unless a man sees a woman as sovereign, it can't work. And I think these spiritual guys who are becoming awakened are realizing I can't be misogynistic and have a cosmic love connection. Like they don't work together.
Well, energetically, the universe won't allow it. It just is not
No,
happening.
it'll
It's just
become
not happening.
abusive.
Correct.
Wherever there's a power imbalance, that's where the abuse is. Power is always the cause, and the cure of abuse is the correct apportioning of power. Right? It's all about
Well,
power.
so
Abuse is all about power.
I've been feeling that I am destined for the 1 + 1 = 11. And I've been
Yeah.
feeling that for
Yeah.
since 2009. So
Yes.
Part of the work for me is just being patient and also learning and unpacking any remaining trauma response that's trapped in my field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's look at your split chart because I haven't done that, I don't think very
Want
often, or I've
to.
read all.
I want to, and I really
Oh,
can't.
you gotta go. All right. Well, I'll leave you with this
Look
thought.
at my split chart. Look at that.
Yeah. So on in your body, it's words becoming deeds and this incredible integrity and absolutely like this love of a lifetime. And what your personality wants to do is help people recognize a desire for a different kind of society.
Mhm.
So, I mean, which is really what we've discussed. So, on a personal level, yes, this desire for the partner's correct. And thank you for coming on today. You got to come back.
I
We
can't
just
wait.
started scraping the like surface of dust.
I know we did. I
But
would
it's good for
love
our
to come back.
audience because what I have been developing with my guests over time is sometimes they come back, like
Mhm.
Gary, my friend Gary is an amazing relationship coach. He comes back. So we'll have you back, but this is a great way for people to get their toe wet with you because you really are a shaman who takes people there. So thank you for today. Any final words of wisdom? And we'll make sure that all your info is in the links below.
Invest in getting support 1,000%. Whether
Yeah.
it's with Beth, whether it's with me, whether it's one of her many guests that she
Yeah.
brings on, invest in getting support. We are not here to
Yes.
do this alone. We are here to be walking in partnership.
And with that, have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, my darling.
Bye for now. Bye,
Bye.
everyone. Thank you. See you next time.